Hello and welcome to this edition of Africa Speaks. I'm Joy Doreen Bira. Mali has confirmed the death of the country's first Ebola patient just a few days after she tested positive for the deadly virus. Meanwhile, a doctor who recently returned from Guinea, has tested positive for the Ebola first case of the deadly virus in New York City and the fourth diagnosed in the United States. Here now, a look at the top stories from Africa. Rwanda has suspended BBC broadcasts in the Kinyarwanda language with immediate effect following the airing of a film questioning official accounts of the 1994 genocide in which at least 800,000 people were killed in ethnic clashes. The Rwanda Utilities Regulatory Agency said it had received complaints of incitement, hatred and genocide denial. However, the BBC News Network has denied that any part of the program constitutes a denial of the genocide against the Tutsi. Rwanda members of parliament approved a resolution calling on the government to ban the BBC and to charge the documentary makers with genocide denial, which is a crime in the country. In Botswana, voters went to the polls in general elections on Friday, with the ruling Botswana Democratic Party (PDP) led by incumbent President Ian Khama facing an unprecedented test against an invigorated opposition of one of Africa's most stable democracies. At least 800,000 registered eligible voters voted for a new parliament that will then elect a president in the diamond-rich yet sparsely populated nation bordering South Africa. Incumbent 61-year-old Ian Khama is battling to win over voters in urban areas in the landlocked country, which has been governed by the same family since independence from Britain in 1966. Up north in Tunisia, ahead of the main election on Sunday, there was shooting and deaths. Tunisian police killed 6 suspected militants, 5 of them women, in a raid on a suburban house on Friday after a 28-hour standoff, fanning tensions ahead of the landmark election. The North African nation is preparing to deploy tens of thousands of soldiers and police for the first parliamentary polls on Sunday, with the presidential contest coming on November 23rd. This is the first major election since the Tunisia revolution. Following a positive Ebola test on a 2-year-old girl in Mali, dozens of Malians are being monitored after the country confirmed its first case of Ebola. The patient is believed to have arrived from Guinea-Conakry with her mother. The worst-hit countries, Liberia, Sierra Leone and Guinea, with over 4,800 deaths recorded, now fear that the disease spreading to other African countries could see a worse catastrophe. CDC are now working towards manufacturing 5 more vaccines that are to be in the clinical trial stage in January 2015, 2 of which have been tested on humans. And Kenya's First Lady, Margaret Kenyatta, has been named UN Person of the Year 2014 for her efforts to reduce maternal and early childhood deaths. So far, 7 counties in Kenya with the highest mortality rates have received mobile clinics to help in providing health services in hard-to-reach areas. Margaret Kenyatta has, through marathons dubbed Beyond Zero, fundraised for a cause that has won her the hearts of many Kenyans. And today on Click, we head to Tanzania, where we are going to give you a brief intro into who exactly Sarah Kaisi is. And she's now commonly known as Shar, a talented Tanzanian music artist in every sense of the word. Born on the 7th of November 1985 in a family of 4, lives in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. And for those of you who still cannot put a finger to who I'm talking about, just take a look at some of the productions she's done.
Najiuliza hili swali sipati jibu kamili, nachongea wa bongo kimombo Kiswahili.
Sarah Kaisi, better known by her stage name Shah, shot to fame after her and two other artists won the Tanzania Coca-Cola Pop Stars in 2004. With hit singles like Swanglish and Hoy under their belts, Shah and her fellow group members won themselves a spot in the Tanzania music industry. She later launched a solo career under the management of Master J and has now made a name in the Tanzanian, East African and African music scene. And well, that is Shah there. She's vibrant, she's beautiful and creative with a unique sense of style. However, due to her studies and personal goals, Shah left the group and went to Washington, D.C. to further her studies. But now she joins us in studio on Africa Speaks platform to tell us what exactly she's been up to, you know, let alone the fact that she's been studying. We're here to know what she's been studying, actually. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And, well, Shah right here, my immediate left.
Obviously.
And her manager, road manager or entire manager?
Yeah, road manager.
Road manager.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That is Master J. I'm sure most of you who, you know, have watched a lot of television know quite a lot about him. He more resonates with Tanzanian music and, you know, from bongo flavor all the way to today.
Very true.
So it's so good to see you both.
Thank you very much.
And I'm so glad that I'm actually speaking to artists. You know, we always have these very serious interviews.
I know, right?
So we talk about the current state of
Yeah, I
Africa and
know.
all that. And so today we are laying it back a
A
bit.
little bit lighter today. I love
so
that.
what have you been up to?
Yo, a lot. A lot. Mostly, actually, the launch of my solo career. I've been doing for 5 years now. I've been a solo artist for 5 years now, and I've released over 7-8 releases, 8 songs. But finally, I'm making my introduction into Kenya. I feel like it's time because I'm back home, Tanzania, already familiar with me. I figured, what is the next step? So the next step for Shah is the introduction to East Africa in general, starting with Kenya, then hopefully next step will be Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi. So that's what I've been up to.
Okay. Of course, you've been, in the recent weeks, you've actually been featuring on the Cox Studio.
Yes.
How long have you been doing this? And, you know, what mileage has it given you?
Coke Studio season 2, we shot it about a month ago or so. And it was an opportunity that came that I did not expect, you know, to show up in such a short time of my career. Because a lot of artists that they've featured before are really, really big names. Even in season 2, there's a lot of big names.
Right.
So it was quite a big honor, especially finding out that I'll be working with Jackie from Uganda. So as I said, for me, because the next focus of Shah is getting the Shah brand out there in East Africa, I figured Coke Studio is just a godsend, seeing as it airs all over Africa. Yeah,
Right.
so it's already opened a lot of doors, actually. Just now, my manager showing me an email from a person from Uganda, you know, asking if they could work with me because they've seen me on Coke Studio. So it's already opening doors for me.
Right.
Yeah.
You say that, you know, Coke Studio features big artists, you know, the first season, second season.
Yes.
You don't think that you're among those big artists because you seem to be giving yourself a low profile?
I feel like I still have a long way to go. 5 years for any artist is still is still a crawling stage as far as I'm concerned. A lot of the big names that I've seen on Coke Studio, you know, they've been in the industry for 10, 20 years, you know. So for me, I feel like I still have a long, long way to go. Still a baby crawling.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, let me get now to Master J. We are fans. Someone, my director is telling me she's a fan as well.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm honored.
So, I mean, you've done incredible work for Tanzania, especially the music scene.
Yeah.
How would you describe the growth of the industry from back then to today?
Well, it's grown a lot. When we started off, myself and another producer called P-Funk and another one called Bonnie, there was only one FM station. Actually, it had just started. A lot of people don't seem to realize FM stations and TV stations in Tanzania came in the late 90s. Before that, we only had an AM station, Radio Tanzania.
Wow.
So, and Radio Tanzania was very strict. You had to record at their studio. It had to be a band, and you had to write the lyrics a certain way. You know, it was just young people just didn't have a platform. When the first radio station, FM station, and TV station started, that was the beginning of our music industry, youth level, basically, because bands already had a platform since 60s, 70s. So the more the FM stations increased, the easier it was. They needed content, so we provided the content, local young artists. The listeners then demanded for shows and for CD and for tapes at that time, and then later on tapes, etc., etc. Until now, we have, I don't know, I hear over 50 radio stations.
Wow.
And you know, in Tanzania, there's this language barrier. You know, English is not the first language.
French.
Second, it's like I don't know, the 10th language. So it works in our favor.
Even today?
Yeah.
Even today.
Wow.
Yeah, even today. So it works in our favor, though, in the sense that 80% of the music being played on radio then has to be in Kiswahili. Yeah, otherwise they just don't get it.
But what does that mean when it comes to outside of Tanzania? Isn't that being unfair to the artists? Because if they can't sing in English, then that's a disadvantage. Not really a disadvantage, because I think I've seen some Swahili songs that have gone continent-wide, and some have gone international, but of course the audience is going to be limited.
This is what I believe. This is my personal view. Language is not really a barrier. South Africans have been able to sing in their local language and conquer the continent. The next country that did it without singing a single word of English was Lingala. Lingala conquered the whole of the continent, and there was no English. So it's just a matter of how you package the music and how you market the content to the rest of the... That's what I believe.
And as time goes on, I think African music is gaining international popularity. And we're seeing a lot of African artists as well doing collabos with international artists, especially the African American community. Are you thinking the same as well?
Oh, yes. That's the big picture, obviously. Like I said, I only feel like I'm still growing, I'm still crawling. So I'm just trying to build my brand, to put it in a spot where once I'm ready to work with an international artist, such as maybe Mary J. Blige or Busta Rhymes or whoever, they're not going to go back and ask. Well, I'm actually
like Mary J. Blige.
Love her.
Yeah.
They're not going to actually go back, you know, to my country or to East Africa and say, so Sha has looked for us. Who is Sha? And then nobody knows Sha in East Africa. Yeah, I believe most international acts want to work with people who have already at least established themselves in some way. That's why I'm actually trying to focus, you know, getting the Sha brand out there first in Africa, then the rest of the world. Kind of like what P Square have done, what Davido has done. Yeah, you have to first establish yourself, nyumbani, before you can cross the borders. Yeah.
All right, we have Sha in the studio, and in case you have any questions for Sha or Master J, you can use the hashtag #AfricaSpeaks, and we'll be able to ask those questions so we can have satisfactory answers firsthand. We'll now take a short break, but we'll be back, and of course we'll be reading out some of your tweets and also going forward, finding out what exactly she went to school for, and also what the future of Tanzanian music is. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Africa Speaks, and in studio we have Shah, a Tanzanian female artist, and also her road manager, who is also a big producer in Tanzania and East Africa. Well, in Africa, I should say. There is Master J, and they're all here to tell us what's happening in Tanzania and what they would like to do outside of Tanzania. And of course, your responses coming through the hashtag Africa Speaks. Would like to hear what you have to say about these artists. And we're having Edwin, who is saying, I adore Cher's humility, wishing her all the best from the crawling stage to the flying stage. And we also have one coming in here from John, who is saying Africa Speaks is somewhat I'm surprised, actually. It's coming in from Novi, who is saying, must say I'm surprised we share a birthday with Shah. That one has done a lot of reading. And of course, because we mentioned, because we also mentioned that we had, mentioned your date of birth as well. You are one of the young female artists. Well, not really young, but young. And because it's very hard to find very successful female artists in Africa. So there's a lot, of course, that can be associated with you. But before we get into that, let's just remind whoever is watching of some of the music that Shah has done from back then up until today. Sarah Kaisi, better known by her stage name Shah, shot to fame after her and two other artists won the Tanzania Coca-Cola Pop Stars in 2004. With hit singles like Swanglish and Hoy under their belts, Shah and her fellow group members won themselves a spot in the Tanzania music industry. She later launched a solo career under the management of Master J and has now made a name in the Tanzanian, East African and African music scene. All right, I'll start with that, and that is Shah. But you did mention something. Unfortunately, you were already on air. You said that was the cheapest video you made?
Out of all the videos. As a record company we've ever shot for Shah, this had the lowest budget.
Really?
Yes. There was no need for that much glamour. We really wanted it to represent Uswazi from back home, how it really is. We had to take people to how the real environment is, and it's never really that expensive.
I actually I didn't quite understand
the meaning of the song,
of the title.
You were asking me that. Sugwa Gaga. Gaga back home is the lower part of your foot. That's what we call it in TZ. So many ladies, some guys like to do that as well. Many ladies, before they go into the bathroom for a shower or whatever, they make sure that they clean their lower part of the foot first. Yeah, because a lot of the ladies from there walk with either barefoot, malapa or barefoot. Yeah, so they clean the gagas. So we say Sugua Gaga. Yes.
So when you say Sugua is more like?
Sugua more like clean the gaga, but it also translated into kind of a dance because because once you're doing the Sugua Gaga, you cannot Sugua Gaga with heels. It's impossible.
Okay. Now, of course, someone is asking, that is Agri Otieno. He's saying, does the emergence of many radio stations translate into more airplay? Master J, you can probably let us in on that.
I cannot speak for here, but in Tanzania, it's a big country, as you understand. So there are a lot of radio stations in each region, and we have a lot of regions. So when we had one FM station, it could only cover so much. But eventually, different radio stations were opening up in different regions. And luckily for us, they all present in Kiswahili, and they all play music, mostly, which is in Kiswahili. So the more stations that grew throughout Tanzania, and they're all playing our content, that's what help our market grow. So yes, in answering here the question, yes,
Yeah,
it did.
It does.
It does.
Yes, it did.
All right, and Steven is saying, any chance of Wakilisha coming together again, because they had great music and harmony? Unfortunately, one of the group members passed on.
Yeah,
this
unfortunately,
last
Langa
year.
passed on.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year. But before he passed on, a lot of people were asking about that and thirsting for that. It's just that we were at a time where everybody was also trying to discover themselves. So when I went to school, Witness also pursued a solo career afterwards. Langa also pursued a solo career, which was doing really well. He had hits. Witness had hits, won herself a Channel O award. So we were very young. When people need to understand we're young, we went through a phase where we needed to find ourselves as individuals. Maybe if Langa was still alive, maybe, who knows, maybe a reunion could have occurred. As we've seen with the big international groups, they eventually go their ways, alafu. If somehow they find their way back, even just for the fans. So maybe if Langa was alive. But right now, with the focus being on me and Shah, the brand, I cannot lie and say they should expect that anytime soon. That'll be me just sitting here lying.
So not even a duet of sorts that you're going to do.
I've
with
actually
Witness?
managed to work. I worked with Langa, a song that did very well in TZ. It was called Ntimanyongo. I was actually supposed to work with Witness, but Witness's projects were more outside Tanzania. She managed to land herself a very good deal in Norway and Sweden. So she was constantly not in the country. Then as soon as she got back, her priorities changed. What people don't know, she got married. Yeah, she got married. She was pregnant. So life happens, as I said. Yeah.
Great. Master Jay, I would like to know from you, a lot of artists who are signed onto international labels get so frustrated that sometimes they tend to regret why exactly they signed onto international record labels. Like Nakaya, I think somehow regrets. I think she was signed onto Sony. Was it Sony? Yeah, and then she's like, man, that was the worst experience I've ever gone through. So do you encourage artists to sign onto international labels, or better the devil you know than the angel you don't?
In our industry, any artist who's an A-list artist right now will not sign on, because unfortunately it's because of the reputation that these contracts have built for themselves over the past few years. They sign you on. The one thing that they keep on doing is they always go and change the artist. I don't understand why. When you're signing on the artist, they already have a winning formula. The only thing that you should do is just back him up with a bigger and better marketing and distribution system. But a lot of these artists, first of all, are signed on, then they're sidelined. They disappear for like 6 months, and then when they come out, they've changed them, whether it's appearance, also the sound. So a lot of Tanzanian artists, I'm talking about from Tanzania, they're always like, whoa, issue, no thanks. I cannot be sidelined. You don't sideline an artist for 6 months. Out of mind, out of sight, out of mind. And these days with social media, you constantly have to be in the
people's faces.
You understand?
Yeah.
So we have an artist, Ali Kiba. He was out of the music industry for over 2 years.
2 years
after signing with Sony.
Wow.
He just released this song after like three months ago.
So it gets so difficult. Artists are tied up and they don't even have the freedom to collaborate with anybody they wish to collaborate with.
Yeah. Luckily for me, with the new track I've done with Weston, who's also under a big name.
He's under Sony.
Yeah. The featuring happened like before the contract. But I'm pretty sure, like from what I've been approached with, we've been approached with such deals. Yani, you're not supposed to be doing featurings, nothing for that period of time where they want you to,
So they concentrate on you alone?
Yes.
Do they give you the liberty to write your own songs?
No. It's exactly as Master Jay said, that most of them don't. Most of them change you. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know why they sign you in the first place if the focus is to change you, But most of them don't give you that much of a freedom unless you are a stubborn artist.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. And someone is saying, rumor has it the two of you
Rumor
Really?
has
Kenya.
it, even in Kenya. I love that. I've always talked about it's so unfortunate for us women that if you're working with a male
With a male,
manager, that is the first assumption. Yeah, it's so unfortunate. But if it was another guy sitting here and the manager was a woman, that question would have not popped up.
So it's not true.
No, he's my manager, road manager.
That's it.
Yes.
Really?
And a very good friend.
Oh,
A
okay.
very, very good friend.
Okay, and someone is saying, so at what point did you go to school and did that affect your career?
Actually, while I was going through Wakilisha, I had just finished my O levels. So my parents took it as a more of a hobby kind of a thing happening. They figured, let her pass time as we're waiting for her to go on to her A levels. So as soon as it was time for me to go back to school, they were actually very strict about it. They told me, like, you know what, we told you during this time you better get everything together with your Wakilisha issue. It's time to go back to school. Same thing happened with Langa, by the way.
Yeah.
Because Langa was also just chilling on holiday, and then it was time to go back to school. So Langa and I both went back to school, and it became a bit difficult for us to mix the two, because you'd find that we have gigs at night, and then in the morning you have class. So it was very, very difficult to a point where my parents were just not having it. So they're like, okay, maybe it's time for you to go outside Tanzania for, to kuendelea with further of your studies. Alafu, maybe then the focus will be more on your education than Wakilisha. You cannot serve two masters.
Right. So
Yeah.
you're passionate about art.
Very passionate about arts, and I was lucky enough that when my parents agreed for me to go out, to go to school outside Tanzania, they agreed for me to study arts and design, which is my other passion. Love painting, love designing. Yeah, it's quite a passion of mine as well. My second love.
All right. I think a final question that I'll ask that's coming in from someone here called, Elvis, is saying, congratulations, Shah, for getting to where you are. What is the secret of rising up to where you are as an artist?
Thank you very much. I really believe the secret to rising up is the fans, the support you get from the fans, and the support you get from the media, like the radio stations, the TV stations. Otherwise, how are people going to hear of you or see of you? So my biggest mchango, me being where I am today, it has to go to the fans. The fans have been pushing me, throwing me at other people's faces. So for me, that has been the secret to my success. Yeah.
Interesting. And to Master J, I would now like to hear from you. What is the future of Tanzanian music? I know there's been bongo flavor. Is it still big at the moment, or?
It's humongous right now. The one thing we didn't have, we're very young, a young market. Even if you compare us to Kenya. Kenya started way back with record companies, etc. So when we started, there was no money. People have to understand there was no money in the industry. So I was doing it for the love. The producers were doing it for the love. The artists were doing it for the love. But eventually, as I explained, the more demand there was, they started
More
doing
airplay.
shows. You understand? But the one thing we lacked that we always envied Kenya and Uganda was we never got endorsements.
Yes.
Multinational companies never wanted to touch bongo flavor artists, even the bands.
Yeah.
So that is the one thing that we always liked since I started. I think I started in 1992 producing bongo flavor. Just 2 years ago is when multinational companies started to touch these
In
artists.
2012.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's why now you're seeing people like Diamond, even Shah, Vanessa Mdee. You see, they all have endorsement deals. Now they can finally start to invest in doing bigger projects and
bigger
crossing
things.
borders. That's why Diamond was, after signing just 2 deals, he was able to tell Davido, yo, featuring.
Come over here.
Yeah, Clarence Peters, I'm coming to Nigeria, I'm going to
Shoot
pay
a
you
video.
full rate, I'm going to shoot the video. So that's how Diamond was able to make such investments. That's how they are all now able to make these investments because of this.
Okay. Shah, my final question to you is, what artists would you like to work with in East Africa, across Africa, internationally?
So many.
I know you did mention international ones,
There are
but then
so many, so
the
many.
East African.
Like some of the names that projects that, inshallah, very coming soon. I would love to work with Matrax. I would love to work with Size 8, I've mentioned. I would love to work with Juakali. Uganda, I'm planning to work with Jackie Chandiru, planning to work with Lilian, Navio. South Africa, there's AKA. I would love to work with Mafiki Zolo. There are so many artists, so many.
You've done a song with Redson, very briefly.
Yes.
Tell us about it as we wind up.
It's my new video that I thought will make a great introduction into Kenya. It's a song called Njo, and the video was shot by our very own local Enos from here, from Kenya. It just got released on YouTube about 2 days ago. So if people are not going to get enough of it here, they can go to Shah Music TV on YouTube and check it out over and over again, and give me some feedback, Kenya. Give me some feedback.
All right.
Yeah.
In 30 seconds, each of you, just your final words to your fans and you know, everyone out there.
Man, I just want to thank everybody. The reception I've gotten to Kenya has been just amazing. You guys have shown me so much love. I've been talking about it over and over, that the love has just been real. Sio ya kufeki ile kulazimisha. So thank you guys so much. Thank you to all the fans out there on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook. I'm seeing all of your comments. Thank you guys so much. If you haven't followed me yet on Twitter, it's Shah, SHAA_TZ. Also on Instagram, it's the same handle. Thank you.
All right. Master J, your final remarks?
I'm just gonna, it's the same. I'm here, obviously, we're representing the Shah brand as a company, so the response has been very well so far.
Yes.
This is a market that we as a company were very scared of. You know, Kenyans either love you or hate you.
Hate you.
We call it, Kenyans are digital, 1 or 0.
Yeah.
So far it's been positive, so thank you very much.
And people want to look for you, just have to go to Dar es Salaam.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you just ask where Master J is, they'll tell you.
All right. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much for having
us.
I do appreciate. The show is online, actually. I'm sure there are a lot of Tanzanians watching as well. But you can get this show online. I think it's going to be up in a few hours, so do check out in case you want to know more about Shah. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. God bless.